We all dream of a sanctuary, a new apartment, the first home we own, and where we can finally give our 7-year-old daughter her own room. We truly believed this place would be our forever haven, but remember this, your safe place might be the exact location where someone else's eternal despair ended. A month after moving in, everything was perfect. Our daughter, overcoming her fears, started sleeping alone, and just as that sense of parental pride settled in, hell began. 3 a.m., the sound of our bedroom door bursting open, followed by a raw, gut-wrenching scream, a sound too primal for a child so small. We flipped the lights on. Our daughter was hysterical, barely able to speak. When she finally did, she said one thing, "The grandmother. She told me to come with her." Which grandmother? She'd never seen her. That night, we held her close. At the time, I convinced myself this was just projected anxiety, the stress of a new environment. I considered myself an intellectual. I believed reason would conquer fear. But fear doesn't knock, it kicks the door down. Days later, it happened again, and then something far stranger occurred. Close to midnight, my wife and I were relaxing when our daughter appeared. She wasn't crying, she wasn't speaking. Her eyes were wide open, but the pupils saw nothing. She was like a hollow shell, controlled by an invisible force. She walked straight into the kitchen and stood before the sink, heels together, staring dead ahead. I called her name, but there was no response. When I gently touched her shoulder, the trance broke. It wasn't just a nightmare anymore, it was sleepwalking. We saw a pediatrician, we optimized her sleep environment, we cut out late naps and exciting TV. We tried every scientific solution possible, but every time that silent, terrifying presence stood in our hallway, our guilt and helplessness crushed us. Did our desire for a better home curse our child? This question squeezed my heart every night. Finally, my wife volunteered. "I'll sleep in her room." I nodded. I played the rational role as the father, but she instinctually became the emotional shield. Her sacrifice was noble, but I felt like I was handing her over to the terror. A week later, just before dawn, my wife woke me up. Her face was drenched in sweat and tears. "Honey, I saw her too." The grandmother. The horror had transferred. She saw the same entity 3 times in her dreams, each one more vivid and horrific than the last. Her face was smeared with blood, but the worst part was her eyes. She looked at me like a starving animal, ready to devour me. Then, her voice dropped to a trembling whisper, revealing the chilling common denominator. The grandmother was always sitting on a small old yellowish-brown wooden chair like the ones we used in elementary school. At this point, our fear left the realm of mere dreams and delusion. The fear was gaining physical form. Psychologically, human trauma often gets imprinted as residual energy on certain objects. An item intensely loved or one present at the moment of death acts as a tape recorder for that despair, and that tape was playing right next to our daughter's room. A month later, a notice for a fire inspection appeared. We needed to remove our bike from the emergency staircase, the very staircase sharing a wall with our daughter's bedroom. We opened the usually closed door. And there it was, in the cold, dark corner of the landing, standing as if placed there temporarily, a small, worn, yellowish-brown wooden chair. My wife didn't scream. She simply covered her mouth, her face drained of all color. That's it. That's the exact chair the grandmother was sitting on. The impossible had just become a terrifying reality. Reason simply collapses when faced with such perfect, malevolent synchronicity. The wall behind which our daughter slept was the exact wall next to this cursed object. We asked the neighbors, but no one claimed it. Finally, the building guard came up. He saw the chair, and his expression shifted, not in terror, but in a look of ghastly recognition. "Why is this here?" After a long, nervous pause, he spoke in a low voice. This belonged to the 101 Dong grandmother." I immediately pressed him. 101-block. We're in 104-block. How is it here? The truth that followed was devastating. She passed away 2 years ago. She took her own life in her apartment. When I received the call and went in, the chair at her feet was this one. A deep chill ran down my spine, an object from a suicide scene in another building, and it found its way precisely to the staircase next to our daughter's room. The chair was removed and disposed of, and just like that, everything stopped. Our daughter slept peacefully. My wife never saw the grandmother again. Should we be relieved? Not entirely. The deepest horror in this story lies in the mystery. I find the spirit of the grandmother less terrifying than the human hand that moved that chair, sneaking it from 101-block to 104-block, right outside our child's door. An object of trauma does not walk on its own. Someone deliberately aimed that energy of despair at my family, at my vulnerable child, as if they wanted to give us a terrible gift. Ultimately, what terrified us wasn't just a ghost, but the residue of human malice and irresponsibility. That residue irrevocably contaminated our sanctuary. After hearing this story, can you still look at a neighbor's discarded item as just trash? Or will you now suspect that every abandoned thing around your home might be an invitation waiting for you to pick it up?